I took the term royalty,
Yeah.
and I looked it up.
Right.
You know,
Did you see my name? This is Lee Hustle. Welcome to My Moment Podcast. Today I have a young, well-rounded young man who has his bachelor's in psychology, a master's in business, a motivation speaker, an entrepreneur, Brent Corbett.
Yeah, this is my moment.
Yeah.
Lee, I appreciate you having me on the podcast.
No doubt. Yeah. So, as I was saying, young, rounded, young man who has a bachelor's, a master's, entrepreneur, and a motivation speaker.
All four. They say you a beast when you got a triangle effect, like the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate that, Lee. You know, I walk with a lot of humility. You know, I practice a lot of the things that I preach in my daily, just to kind of get a little background about who I am. You know, my name is Brent Corbett, aka Mr. What's Your Royalty.
What's your royalty?
Yeah, What's Your Royalty is my entrepreneur.
What is your royalty?
And we're gonna get to it. We're gonna talk about it. Yeah.
Okay.
So, What's Your Royalty is my entrepreneurship. It's my daily walk. It's my affirmation. It's the things that I truly believe in. So What's Your Royalty is my identity.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's allowing me to give other people the permission to do the same in their lives, find their identity, find their passion, find their reason and their why. And I do that through my motivational speaking. So What's Your Royalty is a motivational speaking brand. It's a company. But it's the staple.
Yeah.
It's everything that I feel like I'm putting all my eggs in one basket and being able to really truly believe that this can come to fruition. So, you know, my education is highlighted through my undergrad in psychology.
Okay.
I got a master's in business that kind of flourishes it and puts everything together. But this right here, this is my bread and butter. This is what I feel like I'm called to do.
You got the business, you got the science down in business.
That's it. That's it. You know,
like why what's your royalty? Why that? Why? What motivated you?
So if we talking about the steps of entrepreneurship, What's Your Royalty was defined by the obstacles in my life. You know, if we can go ahead and take a moment to be transparent, be vulnerable, I feel like those are the keys to success. I feel like those are the keys to being able to elevate in your life. So I feel like as I started to mature in my life, I started to really identify with those concepts. And you know what? I took the term royalty, and I looked it up.
Right.
You know,
Did you see my name?
I see your picture next to it.
Okay.
I see your picture next to it.
Okay, you see that?
They said the heavy is the head that fits the crown. So make sure you keep yours on tight, Lee.
All right. Right.
But so I looked up the term royalty, and it really started talking about status. It started talking about the concept of jewels, ownership, things of this sort. And I looked at if I ask somebody a question, what's your royalty? I'm asking you, what is it that you do? What is it that you love? What is it that you are? What is your identity? You know, what is it that you take pride in? And ultimately, what is your status? So, you know, we live in this day and age where media takes a lot of control, right? The perception of what it means to live a perfect life takes its toll on people, and I feel like we've lacking a lot of identity. And so I wanted to start asking people, what is it that you do, and how do you do it? Do you do it with love? Do you do it with compassion? Do you do it with faith, trust? And these are the things that I had to associate myself with. So when I looked at it as, you know, a young man growing up, I went through a lot of struggle. You know, I was surrounded by a lot of love, so I don't take that away from my dynamic. But I will tell you though, I grew up, you know, mom comes from a different country, you know, pops working his butt off to get to what he has. You know, understanding the struggles with family, you know, dynamics, and having to grow up and be on the move constantly, to the point where there was instances where, you know, I'm not too proud of it, but I know that I got myself into situations that I don't speak too fondly of either. And I had to learn the hard way as to what it meant to lean on your faith. But through that trial, I also learned that there is opportunity through the obstacle. So when I get to the other side of that, I came out and found what my royalty was. And so that was my love for people, my love to spread a word to what it meant to if you can get through the trenches and you can identify with the footsteps that trail behind, that's a part of your story. Yeah. So you shouldn't be ashamed of the scars that you bear. So ultimately, What's Your Royalty is just a brand that speaks about life. It speaks about the positivity of things. It speaks about how you should cherish your gifts. How do you explore? How do you be vulnerable, transparent, open? And more so, you know, how do you love what God has put on your plate?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So What's Your Royalty? You know, that's the brand, but like I told you, it's also the staple.
I like that. You mentioned faith. You really highlighted faith. And I think that's the most important thing with anything that you do, is keeping the faith. You know, the faith is like the ground, especially if you wake up one day and you just don't think about the ground. You know, when we get up, put our feet down, we just know the ground's going to be there.
Right.
And with a strong faith with anything that you do, whether it's school, like you have your master's, so you went through the trenches of undergrad struggles.
Right.
You went through the trenches of choosing what grad school you want to go to.
Right.
The trials and tribulations of your story, of what led you to get your master's, or what motivated you to get your master's. Now, when you was getting your master's or in school, like, when did you start, like, What's Your Royalty? Or, like, what was your aha moment when you was laying down? You know, because me, I know like when I get my best ideas is when I'm watching a movie, I'm thinking the movie's supposed to put me to sleep, but my mind's running, and
absolutely,
it's late at night, and I'm just like, okay, like, let me think of some creativity. Like,
I would say my aha moment really came after the testament of when I seen the glory of walking in your faith. So like I said, I was going through some of the most trying times of my life. Some of the things that were really hard to kind of come to grips with, some of the people that I was running with, the mistakes that I was kind of continuously having occur in my life and continuously making. I feel like some of those mistakes, some of the things that I just keep repeating and kept coming, I realized it was a pattern that I was creating for myself. And so I knew that I needed change in that moment. And I think everybody thinks that this aha moment really has like this cloud in the sky, light beaming through, God appears and is like, this is your awakening moment. And I feel like mine was more so a lot of things that continuously occurred that allowed me to see a bigger picture, that I needed change. And my aha moment came with the idea that I have creativity, and that I started to align it with my season of change.
Okay.
And I think a lot of times in those moments, that's where your aha moment kind of reflects. It's like, how do you take the things that you're gifted with? How do you take some of the things that you know how to do, and in your pursuit of change, in your pursuit of growth, how do you apply that? And I think that for me, one day I was just, I was hanging around and I started playing with the term royalty, and I think I asked myself, I was like, I asked myself, I said, what is your royalty?
Yeah.
And I took that phrase, and that was probably about 6 years ago that I started playing with the term.
Okay.
And I would say that it caught attention, and it has given me some sort of light and gratification probably within the last couple of years. But I think that term came to life, and I started to nourish it. I started to give it, the attention that it deserved, and I just ran with it. So when I ask people, what's your royalty, it's not technically something that is, a common phrase or something that something somebody's used to being asked. But the one thing that I got from it was that a lot of people are intrigued or interested in responding to it.
Okay. Did you ever thought about while you had that aha moment of creating What's Your Royalty? Did you ever thought about like a motivation speaker was gonna come into play? Because when you speak, everything you're saying sounds so like motivational,
right?
Inspirational,
right?
And when the term "What's Your Royalty," it really questions you. Like you really question yourself and ask yourself, "What is my royalty?" And then you have to define like what is royalty,
right?
And I think that's the most important thing. It's so unique to a particular person because it's like success. How can you measure another man's success? By your own perspective.
Right.
So, yeah.
Did I know I was going to become a motivational speaker? Not at all. Like if you were to ask me 5-6 years ago, Do I think that I can speak in front of people? Do I think that I could talk in a way that it moves a room, or that I can shift people's mindset and that people would actually listen to what I have to say?
Yeah.
I would tell you no. I would tell you absolutely
was
not.
Just the shy kid growing up?
You know, not necessarily shy. I was always a person who really got along with everybody in the room, or tried to at least, and you know, I was social. But if you asked me if I was going to inspire people, I would tell you that it wouldn't be through motivational speaking. You know, but what I will tell you is the thing that I learned from it was connecting the dots, learning to appreciate your journey by connecting the dots. I think that for me, what I had to learn was, one of the things that is so unique about life is that things don't make sense right away, and we need to stop trying to make sense of every single thing, but learn how to appreciate being present. So I work in psychiatry. Got my undergrad in psychology. And with these
by the way, you know, for those who don't know, this is my coworker.
Yeah.
so him saying that he goes in the room and, you know, his presence is, well, make friends with everybody. This is him. This is how we met. You know, he was there before I was. And when I showed up, you know, he made me feel comfortable working in a new environment, such as, you know, we work at UCLA Hospital, and working there, you know, it's a new environment, big organization, to where you don't want to make a lot of mistakes, because you know, you have a lot of responsibilities.
Absolutely.
But Brent, he just made it seem like, hey man, I was once like you, and if I can do anything to help you or to make you feel comfortable, from your surroundings comfortable in your environment, I'm here to help you.
And I think that's like the testament to, like, when you're called to do something, it doesn't just show up, or it doesn't reflect into one, you know, aspect or paradigm.
Right.
It shows up in many different facets. But to kind of reflect back onto, like, the connecting the dots perspective, I think it was important to understand that I was working in psychiatry, and I took a different route, and I took the route of going into business, right? So you asked me, did I think I was going to be a motivational speaker? And I think the circle and the story comes full circle. And I think it's cool to see that I'm now using the concept of mental health, and I now apply it to entrepreneurship, which is, you know, the basis of what we're talking about, and finding your identity. And I was once asking myself, why am I doing this too? But now when I started to trust the process, I started to understand I'm networking. And I think that's, I guess my next question is, becoming an entrepreneur, right? Open up your own business, right? And not just open up your own business, but being the main person who's running it, and being the, you know, you got your 10 toes down, right? 2 feet down on the ground. You know, you're grinding through the struggles, through the trials and tribulations. How do one person, or one man or woman, can find their identity in this process of opening up their own business and becoming an entrepreneur? Because I know school, you know, for me, I have my master's. I know when my schools, when I was going to college, and I just know that my identity wasn't the same in high school. And even though my character, I feel like everyone had, I really do believe like my character is the same since day one. When I say day one, since I can remember elementary, middle school, high school. I just gotten better, sharpening up my character. But when it comes to like identity, I always thought it was going to be something else rather than what I'm doing now or what I got my degree in. And I think I discovered that particular identity while I'm in school. Okay. So for your entrepreneur, is like, what identity that you created for yourself to go along with making your business and coming up with your name, and just overall just becoming a successful young black man getting his entrepreneur. So I would say that just the concept of leaning on my faith, like with an unconditional amount of belief in what it is that I aspire to do, that's what really helped me start to shape my identity. And I would tell anybody, I think the hardest thing to do is to follow your intuition and go against the grain, because society, people, even loved ones are going to try to steer you into the direction they want to steer you into. So when you start to lean on the strengthening of this is who I am, start to lean on that faith, start to lean on what it is that you believe that you can accomplish, then you start to really block out the noise of distraction.
Yes.
And for me, that's what it was. It was, and I'll be honest, very transparent, it was hard for me to tell people I was a motivational speaker, because I started to live in the perception of what they would say, or what would they think, and I started to really live in that. And so when I started to,
would you say you had a lot of insecurities and along the way?
I think it was more so you want to please people. So the title for me was easier to say I worked for UCLA, or it was easier for me to tell people I have my master's in business, right? But it was never easy for me to say that I am a motivational speaker, because now people are going to instantly want to say, are you? They're going to start placing judgment, right? They're going to start putting these perceptions on you instantly. But then when I felt comfortable with my identity, I started to realize my doors are opening up like this quick, because now that belief is now aligning with what is purposeful. And now that I'm able to walk into that identity, and I use this phrase a lot, I'm walking in my royalty. So when I tell people that, I'm letting you know, like, I asked the question, what's your royalty? But now I'm telling you too, I'm walking in my royalty, which means I'm walking in my purpose, I'm walking in my identity. So whether that means, you know, you're a photographer, videographer, whether that means you're a teacher, you're a doctor, you're a truck driver, whether that means, you know, you're going to school, you're a current student, whatever it is, be passionate about what it is that you are doing, because the more confident that you are, the more that you are able to block out that noise of distraction, you know, that fear. So I think
I don't know if I'm on a podcast or a motivational interview.
You know, this comes with the territory. This comes with the, you know.
Wow, like,
you said this is my moment, so I'm going to take advantage of it. This is my moment.
Exactly. Yeah. This is why, you know, I got this platform, is to bring young people, not even just young people, just all people on this platform, and give knowledge, because I'm a firm believer of having knowledge and not sharing it is worse than having no knowledge. Absolutely.
I feel like, and not to diverge from what we're discussing, but to kind of touch on that, it's community is important. community is extremely important. I feel like when you're in a community base, now you're able to give as much as you receive, and then that cycle becomes very important to have. So I think that, like you said, being able to pass along knowledge is massive.
Yeah, just we wouldn't have teachers if that didn't make sense.
No, absolutely. I mean, anything passing down knowledge is how you grow, and is how you get your loved ones to grow as well. So that's what we're here for. You know, motivational speaking is also a part of the aspect of, I want to give you as much as I can, and that means love, aspiration, inspiration, you know, education, anything that I can.
Now, first off, let's retract. You know, master's in business, bachelor's in psychology. How can you give advice to someone who's young, starting college, maybe they're a freshman or just barely a sophomore,
right,
or even a grad student starting grad school? What can you tell them to not just say like what to look out for, but what do you expect? What they should expect just going to college and choosing their career path, and also not just choosing their own career path, but, you know, finding out their own identity?
I would say the two F words that I would tell you that are super important to accept in your life is fear and it's failure. When you can accept those two things, because those two things are inevitable in your journey, you're always going to have some sort of fear,
right,
and you're always going to have some sort of failure. But I will tell you, when you learn to not run but to accept fear, that's not going to only help you elevate, but it's going to push you into the direction you need to go. And then I would tell you that when you fail, that is life's growing pains. I would say that failure,
I think that's life blessings.
And I would tell you that failure has been the biggest positivity in my life. Because when I learned that
2 negatives makes a positive.
Man, they say 2 L's makes a W.
Right.
So when I look at it that way,
math, y'all.
that's it. So I guess the way I look at it truly is failure is a way of learning your lessons that you need to. And when I stop running from it, then I start looking at everybody else around me and looking at it as everybody else is going through the same growing pains. They're going through the same type of fears. We just put on a facade, and we just put on this perception of trying to be better than others, almost like this concept of crabs in a barrel, where everybody's trying to get to the top and step on each other to do it. But I will tell you, once you learn how to accept fear and accept failure in your life, I promise you, you will be in spaces, you'll be in levels of growth and in levels of accomplishment that you probably never thought you would.
Yeah. The two F words, fear and failure. I really honed into the word fear because in my process of my finding my identity and my self-growth, I put fear away. I put fear behind me. I realized when I was, getting my bachelor's degree and making my own decisions, because I'm the youngest out of 5, and being the youngest, you always have examples around you what not to do or what to do.
Okay.
So the things that I was doing, I always believed like, okay, I don't want to disappoint X, Y, and Z, my brother, my mom,
right,
or whoever the case may be. So I want to listen to what they have to say. And then internally, deep down inside, I always felt like, Malik, you have enough knowledge to understand to make your own decisions.
Right.
Whether it's right or wrong. And even being wrong, I believe wrong is not a bad thing. I think wrong becomes a bad thing when you put fear in front of it.
Right.
You fear of being wrong. So you try to maneuver your life through a facade of trying to say, like you said, you put on a, not lack of terminology, but put on a front of this is what I'm doing, I'm better than this, but it's mainly a defense mechanism of being fearful. So once I learned of only thing I fear is fear itself, is like, okay, I don't mind being wrong.
Right.
Started out of college, straight out of high school, and dropped out the first semester. That was the biggest decision that I probably have made in my life. The greatest decision.
Okay.
Not because school was hard, because like I said, I'm the youngest out of 5. I never really had to worry about feeding myself, getting money, living on my own. Like, if my mom didn't do it, I would go down the line of my siblings into my grandma, and one of them was going to say, okay. Right. No, I hear you. So, like, being by myself is like, oh, wow, Malik, you got to do it.
Right.
So I think I was having that battle, like you spoke about, laying up and having that aha moment. Like, I was having that aha moment, like, I need to drop out and go back home. I'd rather struggle with my family, being surrounded by my family, rather than struggle and, being by myself.
Right.
I'm 18 years old. I'm a kid. 10 years ago, and fast forward now, it's like masters.
Exactly.
Working at a great career. I'm doing a great career, doing great things, working at a great organization, meeting great people, networking, going to a top tier school.
Yeah.
And realizing that not having fear got me here.
Right.
And failure as well, because I dropped out during the middle of the semester. So what that entails, you failed all your classes.
Absolutely.
So it's like those 2 F words is like, wow, I really didn't put that into perspective, like how you did. And I think that's great that you live by that and you follow those 2 F rules of failure and fear.
And I guess it's, when you ask me is, what advice would I give somebody who's maybe going into college or starting something new, I think those are the things that I would keep in the forefront. And Eric Thomas, one of my favorite motivational speakers, hands down, the dude is a beast. He talks about, it's not the accolades that makes who he is. He goes, it's not the accolades, it's not the trophies, it's not the things that makes me sweet, it's the journey.
Yeah.
And I was like, because he acknowledges that the journey,
I walk past with a shadow of
no
fear, fear, no evil.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everything in between is what's going to give you that sense of pride, that sense of accomplishment, that encouragement to know that you've gotten from one place to the next. And I say I don't do things to prove somebody wrong. I do things to prove me right. So in the midst of that, I'm like, you know what? Even though you have that gratification of proving somebody wrong, at the end of the day, that my true gratification comes with proving myself right. And I think that that's the encouragement I might give somebody who's starting something new. Is you're gonna get doubters. You know, I don't like to use the word haters. Everybody wants to use it. At the end of the day, you're gonna get people who doubt you. You're gonna get people who have skepticisms. You know, they're gonna criticize. They're gonna do all that. But at the end of the day, if it is that you can look yourself in the mirror and say that I'm accomplishing this because I love me enough to go ahead and weather whatever storms I got to go through, then that level of fear, that level of failure, now becomes a part of your story. And when it becomes a part of your story, I tell people, make sure you're writing a book that's a story worth telling. That's a part of your life. So I want my kids to know who Brent Corbett was one day. Right? But the only way that I can do that is with every footprint that trails behind me, that I acknowledge every footprint, and I give every footprint the acknowledgement that it deserves. Whether that means it was a ugly story in my life, whether that means it was a rough season, a chapter that I don't really want published, but I gotta give nourishment in life to all that. So then my kids, or people in general will acknowledge that, you know what, Brent Corbett did have a story worth telling. And so I guess what I would tell people, you know, whether that's young cats going to school, or whether that's, you know, somebody starting a business, or whether that's
someone want to take that leap of faith of trying something new.
Absolutely. Because the one thing that you don't want to do in life is look back and say, what could I have done? That is the biggest fear that I have. If we're going to talk about fears and failures, I think there's no such thing as a failure when you attempt it. I think it's failure when you decide to never give it the nourishment, the option to even do it in the first place. So, and that's a bar.
That's more than a bar. That's Bible. That's a command right there. Wow. Yes. Like, I'm soaking everything in what you're saying. It's hard for me to respond after you speak, because it's a shower. You know, when you're speaking, and the words you're using, and the inspiration words, and the way you speak, it's so like influential.
And that means a lot to me, because this is also a testament to somebody that I would tell you again, everybody has a gift. So the way that I talk, the way that I present myself, the way that I want to pour into people may not be the same way that you can, but I can't do it what Leak does. You know, what Leak Hustle does, what Leak is all about, I can't be that. So that's the beauty behind it, is that I can't do what you do. We can always imitate one another, but at the end of the day, your gift is going to be more powerful than what I can present. And then this is me doing what I can do, right? I can talk to people. I want to inspire people. And I think that I can't write poetry the way somebody writes poetry. I can't rap the same way somebody raps. I might not be able to hit a baseball the same way somebody hits a baseball. I may not even be able to teach the same way somebody can teach it. But I know that God gave me a gift to be able to pour into people.
I don't know if that's all true, because earlier you were saying you ball like Paul Pierce. So.
You know, I didn't say basketball. I said I can't hit a baseball. Okay. You see me on the court, I might give you a bucket or two still. That's still a strong possibility. I'm not going to say it's a fact. But it's a strong possibility. I'll tell you that.
Wow. Well, while we're on basketball, man, like, who's your favorite team? I know my favorite team, you know, is the Lakers.
Yeah, you know, I'm a hometown kid. I'm a rock with the West Coast. You know, I'm you know, from LA area, the IE in particular, but you know, shout out to the IE. Shout out to the IE.
Shout out to the balls.
Absolutely.
Triple B.
You know, shout out to the IE. There's a lot of good noise coming from the area now.
Nice area.
It is. It's cool.
Very nice. It's different nice cities out there. Like Rancho.
Hey, look, it's peaceful.
Ontario.
It's peaceful. I'm gonna take the peace.
Demas.
It's cool out there.
Fontana, like, don't sleep on Fontana. Fontana got the cheap houses.
Things is expensive everywhere now, but
especially in California.
Absolutely.
Like, oh my gosh, if you want to duck off somewhere, like me, I like being ducked off.
Okay.
I like being ducked off in a nice, neighborly hood.
Absolutely, because you're choosing your peace over any sort of chaos that could be in your life.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people take that for granted.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you grew up in chaos doesn't mean you need to invest in chaos. You get what I'm saying? Like,
I get you. Yeah.
know,
It's all about the time
your peace doesn't make
invested.
your peace doesn't make you weak, man. It makes you valuable. Because
maybe that's my new brand. What's your value? So yeah, man. What is Mr. Royalty 2023 vision of his brand, his business, his goals and aspiration looking like?
2023, I feel like it's a year of growth for me.
Okay.
I feel like last year was the year of preparation,
Mm-hmm.
and I think now this is where opportunity meets preparation.
Mm.
So I feel like 2023 is the year that we minimize excuses, we maximize opportunity, we're 10 toes down, and we get after it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fully immersed into what it is that I believe that I can do, that I can accomplish, and I feel like at this point it's all foot on the gas pedal and we're not letting up.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a few events coming up where I'm speaking at schools, everything from 5th to 6th graders to 10th graders to even at the collegiate level. I have events already lined up. I have another global project dropping pretty soon. Just a lot of creative content and self-belief.
Okay.
So 2023, it looks bright. We're in February.
Okay.
And we just got started, so we got another 10 months to go. And I think in those 10 months, again, I talked earlier about making sure that you have a story worth telling.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is going to be one of those chapters where I look back and I thank myself.
Yeah.
Now
you said there's a couple events. Let the people know, let the world know what you're doing, man.
So
I personally know what you're doing.
Right.
'Cause I follow you.
Right.
So I know what you're doing, but let my fans know, let the world know.
Right. What is it that I do?
Yeah.
So right now I speak at organizations. I speak at schools in particular. So my focus right now is touching underprivileged youth, trying to get into the school system to where I can really put my footprints and give these kids a sense of hope. One of my mission statements, a part of it highlights the perspective of being able to be the voice of reason and the voice of hope. And if I can be that, then I'm walking in, again, my royalty. So, that's it. Yeah. So right now I'm targeting a lot of schools. My events are catered to, focusing on talking to kids and hosting these events and putting them together. I'll be speaking at a college this summer, helping with an event. It's a 3-day event. Also catered to the students in the area, high school students. So that's where I'm at. Like I said, I have a global project to where you guys will be able to see on YouTube. If you guys have an opportunity, follow me on Instagram. My tag is B_Corbett 23, so B_CORBETT 23.
Okay.
And in those media outlets, you guys will be able to see more.
I have that in the comments and
absolutely
description.
So if you guys like the motivation, if you like what you've seen so far, we just getting started.
Right.
Yeah, I got a lot of creative projects on the way. I got merchandise on the way. I have my website at BrentCorbett.com. That's where you're going to be able to see more events pop up, more opportunities. You guys can follow my story, my journey, and I'm a real open dude. So if you guys want to talk, you guys need some advice, you guys just want to chop it up, let me know.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Yeah. Wow. So you do a lot. You sound like a busy man, spending a lot of time developing.
Absolutely.
Spending a lot of time creating. When do you have time to not focus so much on what you have to do for your business, what you have to do for your self-growth? Rather just, when you have time, just, I like to say, kick back, lay on the couch, go back to when you was 10 years old in your boxers. And
Yeah.
Just chilling,
Yeah, absolutely. Work-life balance. I tell anybody, I think that's the most important thing when it comes to your hustle and your grind. Some people have this, I put my head down, I go 100 miles per hour, and I don't stop until I touch my reward. I believe in milestones. I believe in short-term victories. So I think what helps me is if I was able to accomplish a small task, I take a little break afterwards.
Oh.
And I'm not talking about some like, I'll go take a trip or I go take
Yeah.
some grand vacation. No, it's not that kind of reward. It's more so, okay, I accomplished this. Let me dial back just a little bit. Let me understand what I accomplished. Let me be happy with what I accomplished. Let me be present. And then between my business and between work, I just try to make sure that I don't lose sight of my loved ones, family, friends, relationships, friendships. I think that all of these things is what makes life what life is. So if you're always just 100% grind and no time to spend with your loved ones, then I think at the end of the day, you're losing precious time. And time is the most valuable thing we have to offer.
Yeah.
So to kind of revert back to that, I make sure that, again, I celebrate my short-term victories. Once I do, I dial back just a little bit, give myself an opportunity to appreciate the present, appreciate the moment, and then after that, we get right back to business.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, everyone just a round of applause for Brent.
Yeah.
Give it up for yourself as well.
Like, I appreciate you.
The gems that you have dropped, your knowledge that you have, the motivation, wisdom that you give, it's very fruitful.
Yeah.
It's something good for not just the soul, for your body. It's nourishment. And I believe that your tongue is the most powerful thing.
Absolutely.
And what you put out on this earth is what you get.
Absolutely.
And what you're putting out is, I'm seeing it's you're planting your seeds.
Yeah.
And you're seeing your fruit of your labors. So
you reap what you sow.
Exactly. So I commend you for that. Just thank you for just coming on my podcast,
absolutely.
My Moment podcast, and just giving that type of knowledge.
And I love the title of your podcast. If I can go ahead and give you your flowers.
Yeah.
And My Moment, it speaks volumes to me, at least, because now you're giving people the opportunity just to highlight and showcase what it is. So again, I live in that world of what's your royalty, right? What you're doing is you're giving people the opportunity to express what their royalty is.
Yeah.
So My Moment, I think it's a powerful concept.
Yeah.
And
you know what's funny? Don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I came up with that name in my room, in my apartment. I'm with my boy Eladonis, and we were just, I'm like, man, I just need to come up with a name. I always try to gear my name, like whatever creative name I'm trying to come up with, I always try to gear it towards like my real name, My name is royalty, Malik, King of all kings, King of Africa. So it's like, you can't think of a king without royalty.
Absolutely.
So I always try to gear it towards, with my name. And I don't know if I can remember if we both came up with it, I came with it, or he came up with it. It was just something like, I was trying to think of something very so simplistic. Yeah. And My Moment just popped in my head.
And again, that's intuition. And what you did with your intuition is you weren't afraid to run with it. And that's also what we were talking about earlier. It's a concept that when something comes to you, now it's also a gift. What do you do with that gift? Do you pass it on to somebody else? Or do you cherish it the way that you're supposed to? Yeah. And so now you're also giving permission for others to do the same as they come onto your podcast and get featured and talk about their moments,
Yeah. So again, thank you. Another round of applause for yourself.
Nah, man, I appreciate you, Lee.
I would just like to thank you for just coming.
Absolutely.
Just to end it off like here, everyone has an opportunity to get up, wake up, and go get it for themselves. God doesn't make mistakes. So he gave us 24 hours for a reason. My dear grandma always says, what you can't get it done today, do it tomorrow. And me just doing whatever I had to do, I always come up with a creative idea. And I think about it. And when I get overwhelmed, I just stop thinking about it and sleep on it and wake up the next day and accomplish it. And that goes for everyone. Live in your moment. Take it day by day, be present, and walk your royalty.
Absolutely, well said. I couldn't say it any better if I wanted to. And I guess just to leave whatever impression that I can is, don't be afraid to give yourself your flowers. You deserve that. I think one of the hardest things is to get your flowers from other people. So your recognition, the things that you deserve. And so that's why I tell people, that's all right if you don't give me my flowers. That's why I grew my own garden. And so I'll tell you, don't be afraid to continuously walk into that in that sediment, and understand that everything that you're doing is purposeful. And I don't know what season somebody may be when they're watching this, but whatever season you're entertaining, whether that's happiness, whether that's sorrow, whether that's pain, whether that's struggle, be present in that moment, because that doesn't last forever. So your happiness, you might switch and go into a new season. Your sorrow, you might switch and go to a new season, but every season serves a purpose. So then you cherish and value that happiness, or so that you know how to come up out of that struggle.
Yeah.
So continuously grind, continuously get after yours, and again, walking your royalty.
Yes. Thank you again. Thank you.
I appreciate you, Leek.
No problem. Thank you for coming on My Moment Podcast.
Yes, sir.
Follow me on Instagram, Leek Hustle. That's LEAKX Hustle, HUSTLE. You can follow my podcast Instagram, My Moment. That's regular My Moment Podcast. You can also follow Brent.
You can follow myself at B_Corbett. So that's B_CORBETT23. That's my Instagram, and from there, hit me. Let me know. We can work. We can get something going. I'm all about network. So again, Lee, it was a pleasure. Thank you, sir, for having me here.
Yeah.
It's all love.
All love. Thank you.
All right, bro.
And we out.
Oh man.
Damn, that was great.
Yeah.